Kenya, then part of British East Africa, was a key colonial territory under British rule. But in 1914, with the outbreak of World War I, this quiet colony was thrust into one of the most brutal and forgotten fronts of the Great War, the East African Campaign. The war would not only bring death and destruction but leave deep scars on Kenya's political, social, and economic fabric. The East African Campaign began when German forces from neighboring German East Africa launched attacks into British East Africa. Kenya became a critical base for British military operations. The battles fought in the dense jungles and rough terrain were unlike those in Europe, with guerrilla tactics dominating the campaign. This war was fought not only by Europeans but by tens of thousands of African soldiers recruited into the King's African Rifles, a regiment of the British Army. Over 200,000 African soldiers were involved in the East African Campaign, including thousands from Kenya. These men fought bravely under British command, defending their lands and fighting across East Africa. The King's African Rifles became a symbol of African participation in the war, but their contributions remain largely underappreciated in global history. While African soldiers fought on the front lines, an even larger force, known as the Carrier Corps, played a vital but grueling role in the war effort. Over 400,000 Kenyan men were conscripted or coerced into serving as porters, transporting weapons, food, and supplies across hundreds of miles of difficult terrain. Disease, exhaustion, and malnutrition claimed tens of thousands of their lives. For many, their service in the Carrier Corps marked the darkest chapter of Kenya's World War I experience. The war caused severe economic disruption in Kenya. The labor shortage from men being recruited as soldiers and porters meant that farmlands were abandoned, leading to food shortages and famine. The colonial economy, which relied on cash crops like coffee and tea, was strained as resources were diverted toward the war effort. Post-war, many settlers were given land, deepening inequalities and planting the seeds for future conflicts over land rights. World War I deeply affected Kenyan society. Forced conscription and labor left a generation scarred, and many who survived returned to their homes with a new understanding of the inequalities they faced under colonial rule. The colonial administration's harsh treatment of Kenyans during the war sowed the seeds of political unrest, which would fuel the growing anti-colonial movement in the years that followed. The war and its aftermath stirred political consciousness among Kenyans. The heavy conscription, forced labor, and mistreatment of African soldiers led to growing discontent with British rule. The years following the war saw the rise of nationalist movements, with leaders like Henry Thuku demanding better rights for Africans. This marked the beginning of a political struggle that would eventually lead to Kenya's fight for independence. World War I left an indelible mark on Kenya's history. From the bravery of Kenyan soldiers to the sacrifice of the Carrier Corps, the war shaped the country's future in profound ways. Though often overlooked, Kenya's role in the war laid the foundation for the eventual struggle for independence. The memories of those who fought and suffered remain a testament to Kenya's resilience and determination. Learn more about Kenya's untold stories and the forgotten heroes of World War I. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical content.